The most powerful man in Seoul stopped breathing because of a wooden box. Not a threat. Not a weapon. Just evidence he thought he'd burned 15 years ago. The woman holding it was 82 years old. She had flown 8,000 miles to sit across from him. She did not smile. She did not explain. She simply placed the box on the table between them and asked one question. Do you still remember who carved this? At 25, Kang Dae-hyun had already outlived most men who lived like him. In Seoul, power did not announce itself loudly. It arrived quietly, took its seat, and waited for others to notice they were already late. Dae-hyun understood this. His name never appeared in newspapers. His face never trended online. Yet contracts collapsed when he frowned. Men bowed without being told. He controlled logistics companies that moved more than legal cargo. Nightclubs in Gangnam where deals were signed in silence. Private lenders who never sent reminders twice. The city bent around him the way water bends around stone, inevitable, invisible. He did not run. He did not shout. He did not threaten. Things simply happened. His penthouse overlooked the Han River. Floor-to-ceiling glass. Minimal furniture. Nothing personal. The space felt borrowed, as if he had never truly moved in. That was intentional. Roots were dangerous. Sentiment was poison. He had one rule, private and absolute. Nothing from before survived. No photographs. No letters. No names that predated power. The boy he used to be had been erased with the same efficiency he applied to everything else. Cleanly. Permanently. Without hesitation. On the night the call came, he was not drunk, lonely, or curious. He was tired. The phone rang once. He answered without checking the screen. One dinner, Chairman Park said. No greeting. No expectations. Dae-hyun watched the lights stretch across the water. The city never slept. Neither did he. I don't date, Dae-hyun replied. This isn't a date, Chairman Park said. It's a courtesy. Courtesy was a currency Dae-hyun rarely spent. But Park did not waste favors. The old man had survived 4 administrations and 2 internal purges by never asking unnecessary questions. When he called, it meant something had shifted. Dae-hyun almost hung up. But the phrasing, one dinner, suggested finality. Not opportunity. Not negotiation. An ending. Where? Dae-hyun asked. A private room. Jongmyo. Traditional. Of course it was. When? Tomorrow. 8. The line went dead. Dae-hyun set the phone down. He did not wonder who the woman was. He did not care. Tomorrow would come regardless. And when it ended, he would return to the life he had built, the one that required nothing and remembered less. Outside, Seoul moved as it always did. Inside, he felt nothing. That was the point. The restaurant had no sign. It never needed one. Those who belonged knew where to enter. A narrow alley off Jongmyo. A wooden door with a brass handle worn smooth by decades of use. Inside, the air smelled of aged wood and tea steeped too long. The room was arranged for 2. Low table. Floor cushions. The tea is already steaming. Dae-hyun arrived precisely on time. He wore black. No tie. No jewelry. Nothing that required explanation. The hostess bowed and gestured toward the room. She did not speak. He did not ask. He expected many things. A businesswoman seeking leverage. A matchmaker is testing compatibility. Perhaps even someone from the old families, testing whether he understood protocol. He did not expect her. The woman sat upright, hands folded in her lap, back straight despite her age. Her hair was silver white, braided neatly and pulled back. Her skin was dark, deep, rich, unfamiliar in rooms like this. She wore no jewelry, no makeup, just a plain navy hanbok jacket, slightly too large at the shoulders. She did not stand when he entered. She looked at him once. Then back to her tea. Sit, she said. Not impolite. Not deferential. A statement. Dae-hyun paused. No one spoke to him like that unless they were unaware, or untouchable. He sat. Only then did she look at him again. Slowly. Thoroughly. As if checking something against memory. "You're young," she said. He did not respond. "Too young to carry what you're carrying," she added. The room felt smaller. Chairman Park was gone. The servers did not return. No introductions were made. After a moment, Dae-hyun asked, "You know who I am?" She nodded once. "And you still came?" "Yes." He studied her hands. Old, but steady. No tremor. No hesitation. "Why?" he asked. She lifted her tea, took a sip, then placed it down carefully. "Because you agreed." That answer irritated him more than fear would have. The meal would arrive soon. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the city outside. Distant, muted, irrelevant. She had not explained who she was. She had not apologized for the ambiguity. She sat as if she had every right to be here. And somehow that felt true. The meal arrived. Traditional dishes. Carefully prepared. Food meant to slow the body, not excite it. They ate in silence. Dae-hyun noticed something strange. She ate like someone who had waited a long time to be here, but not like someone grateful for the invitation. Her movements were deliberate. She did not rush. She did not fill the silence with small talk. She simply ate, as if the meal itself was part of a process she had planned years ago. Halfway through, she reached into her bag. He stiffened, not outwardly, but the room felt it. She pulled out a small wooden box and placed it between them. Old. Scratched. Hand-carved. The latch is slightly crooked. She did not open it. "Do you recognize this?" she asked. Dae-hyun did not answer. He knew the box. He had not seen it in nearly 15 years. The air in the room changed. Not colder. Not heavier. Just different. As if something had been introduced that did not belong. The box sat there. Ordinary. Unremarkable. And yet it pulled focus like a body at a funeral. His chopsticks paused mid-air. He set them down slowly, aligned them perfectly with the edge of his bowl. Control through ritual. It was reflex now. But his breathing had changed. She noticed. "You shouldn't have this," Dae-hyun said quietly. She nodded. "So they told me." He felt something unfamiliar tighten behind his ribs. Not panic. Not fear. Something older than both. Recognition. "Who are you?" he asked. She considered the question the way someone considers whether to open a door they know leads somewhere permanent. "Tonight," she said, "I'm the woman you agreed to meet." That was not an answer. She finally opened the box. Inside was a ring. Not expensive. Silver. Slightly bent. Inscribed inside with Korean characters. Clumsy. Uneven. A promise made by hands that didn't yet know power. Dae-hyun did not touch it. He did not lean forward. He sat perfectly still. The box had been carved in Busan, in a workshop that no longer existed. He had been 17 then, still running messages, still expendable. The ring inside had been payment for silence. For safety. For something he could no longer name without breaking the architecture of who he had become. The box was supposed to be ash. He had watched it burn. Or thought he had. "I don't understand," he said. She closed the box. "You understand enough," she replied. The meal continued. Neither of them ate. The silence stretched. Dae-hyun reached for his tea. His hand was steady. That mattered. Control was the only language worth speaking. She watched him without judgment. Without expectation. Then she spoke. "Min-jae," she said. The sound hit him harder than the box. No one had used that name in years. That name belonged to a boy who believed in exits. Who thought survival was the same as freedom. Who carved boxes at night because someone told him gentleness could still matter. He stood abruptly. The chair slid back. The sound echoed too loudly in the small room. "I think this meeting is over," he said. She did not move. "You don't get to decide that," she replied calmly. "Not tonight." He stared at her. She held his gaze without effort, without defiance. Just certainty. "You're not afraid," he said. "I am," she corrected. "But fear doesn't change what's owed." Owed. That word. He sat back down. Not because she asked. Because the word had weight. Because debt was a language he understood better than kindness, better than mercy, better than anything soft. She folded her hands again. The same position as when he arrived. As if nothing had changed. But everything had. "How do you know that name?" he asked. She did not answer immediately. She looked past him toward the door, as if checking whether anyone else had entered. No one had. "I knew someone who used it," she said. "A long time ago." "Who?" "A boy who thought he could disappear if he worked hard enough." Dae-hyun felt cold. "That boy is dead," he said. She nodded slowly. "I know. Then why are you here?" She leaned forward slightly. Not close. Just enough to shift the balance. "Because the people who killed him think he might still be alive." The room became impossibly quiet. Outside, Seoul continued. Cars. Voices. Neon. Inside, the past breathed. She spoke then, not quickly, not emotionally, but with the patience of someone who had rehearsed this moment for decades. She told him about Gwangju. About protests that never made foreign news. About a Korean woman who hid during a raid. About messages passed through alleyways and medicine paid for in carved wood. She did not say his name again. She told him about the fire. And about what happened after. The port in Busan. Late summer. The kind of heat that made the air shimmer. He remembered the smell. Salt water, diesel, something burning that should not have been. 12 men died that night. Officially. The woman who paid him in cash and silence was supposed to be one of them. He was supposed to be another. The fire was not an accident, she said. Dae-hyun already knew that. He had known it the moment the flames started. You did not survive in that world without learning to recognize the difference between chaos and choreography. But he had never known why. The older men decided the foreign woman knew too much, she continued. The boy, useful but expendable, was collateral. Collateral. He hated how accurate that word was. The order had been signed, she said. 2 names. Mine. Yours. Dae-hyun's jaw tightened. But someone altered it, she said. A single line changed. A name removed. She paused. Hers stayed. He did not. The logic was backwards. If they wanted her dead, she should have burned. If they wanted him alive, he should have been pulled before the fire started. Unless. You were spared, she said, because someone thought you could be shaped. Shaped. Not saved. Not protected. Shaped. Dae-hyun felt the walls of the room press inward. Every choice he thought he had made. Every step he thought he had earned. Every piece of power he thought he had taken. All of it, curated. Who? He asked. She shook her head. Not tonight. Then when? She looked at him the way a doctor looks at a patient who has just received terrible news. When you're ready to know what it costs. The box sat between them. The ring inside had promised safety. But safety, it turned out, was just another kind of trap. The tea had gone cold. Neither of them reached for it. Dae-hyun stared at the box. The ring inside felt heavier than anything he owned. Heavier than contracts. Heavier than leverage. You're telling me my life was decided 15 years ago, he said. I'm telling you it was decided before the fire, she replied. The fire just made it official. He leaned back. The cushion beneath him felt too soft. Everything in the room suddenly felt staged. Arranged. As if even this conversation had been written long before either of them sat down. Power was given conditionally, she continued. Without your consent. I built this, Dae-hyun said. His voice was low. Controlled. But the edge was there. You did, she agreed. But the foundation was poured before you arrived. He wanted to argue. He wanted to list every risk, every choice, every moment where survival had required more than luck. But she was not wrong. The right doors had opened. The right people had stepped aside. The right debts had been forgiven at the right time. He had attributed it to competence. Now, competence felt like permission. Who decided? He asked. She did not answer. You said someone removed my name. Who? I don't know their name, she said. Only their position. Which was close enough to see you. Far enough that you never looked back. That narrowed nothing. And everything. Dae-hyun had spent years building walls between himself and the past. No photographs. No names. No trails. He thought isolation was safety. Now he understood. Isolation was control. Not his. Theirs. Why tell me now? He asked. She folded her hands again. The gesture was becoming familiar. Calm in the face of rupture. Because time is shorter than people think, she said. How much time? For me. Not much. She met his eyes. For you. That depends on what you do next. The answer felt incomplete. But he knew better than to press. She had flown 8,000 miles to deliver a warning, not a solution. Power was never the reward, she said quietly. It was the test. He understood then. They were still watching. They had always been watching. And the moment he stopped being useful, he would stop being protected. Dae-hyun stood. Not abruptly this time. Slowly. Deliberately. He walked to the window. The glass was frosted, and privacy was built into the architecture. He could see shapes, shadows, movement outside, but no faces. This meeting, he said. Who arranged it? Chairman Park made the call, she replied. On whose behalf? She hesitated. Not from fear. From precision. His own, she said. But not his idea. Dae-hyun turned. Explain. She set her teacup down. Her movements were careful, measured, as if she knew the room might be listening. The blind date was a test, she said. Not for me. He felt his pulse slow, focus sharpening. For me, he said. She nodded. They wanted to see if you still reacted to the past. If you hesitated. If you could be reached. The air in the room shifted. Not temperature. Pressure. Someone had been watching this entire time. Not physically. But the result was the same. Power doesn't forgive memory, she said. It replaces it. Dae-hyun walked back to the table. He did not sit. You're saying this was surveillance. I'm saying your hesitation tonight will be noted. By who? By whoever needs to know if you're still the boy who carved boxes, or the man who burns them. He thought about every word he had spoken, every pause, every moment. His control had slipped. The box, the name, the ring, all of it bait. And you? He asked. What are you? She looked at him without blinking. A messenger, she said. Nothing more. Messengers don't fly 8,000 miles for courtesy. They do, she replied, if the message is the only thing keeping someone alive. Dae-hyun felt the walls close in. Not the room. The city. The entire architecture of his life suddenly felt like a cage he had decorated himself. The real audience was never at the table, she said. He understood. Somewhere, someone was analyzing this conversation, measuring his responses, calculating whether he was still an asset or had become a liability. And the worst part? He had no idea where they were watching from. She reached into her bag again. This time, he did not react. She pulled out a photograph. Old. Faded. The edges are worn from handling. She placed it on the table beside the box. One more thing, she said. Dae-hyun looked down. The photograph showed a group of people standing outside a workshop. Busan. Summer. The light was harsh, shadows sharp against the concrete. He recognized some of the faces. Men who had died in the fire. Others who had disappeared after. But in the corner, barely visible, was someone else. A figure standing in the background. Watching. Older than him. Closer than he remembered. Someone he had never noticed before. "Who is that?" he asked. "I don't know," she said. "But they were there. And they're still watching." He picked up the photograph. Studied the figure. The posture. The positioning. Not accidental. Deliberate. Someone who knew how to be invisible while remaining present. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "It was given to me," she said. "The night before I left." "By who?" She shook her head. "They didn't say. They just told me to make sure you saw it." Dae-hyun set the photograph down. The figure in the background felt familiar. Not in the feature. In function. The way they stood. The way they observed without participating. He had seen that posture before. In mirrors. "You were never the target," she said quietly. "You were the asset." Asset. Not a person. Not ally. Tool. "Asset for what?" he asked. She stood slowly. Her age showed now. The weight of the conversation settled into her bones. "That," she said, "is the question they're waiting to see if you ask." She gathered her bag. The box remained on the table. So did the photograph. "You're leaving?" he asked. "Yes." "Where?" "Home," she said. "I've delivered what I came to deliver." She walked to the door. Paused. Turned back. "If you want to know who spared you," she said, "don't look upward." "Then where?" "Beside you." The door opened. And she was gone. Dae-hyun did not leave immediately. He sat alone in the room. The box. The photograph. The cold tea. Evidence of a conversation that should not have happened. Outside, the restaurant continued. Servers moved between rooms. Voices murmured behind closed doors. Life proceeded as if nothing had shifted. But something had. He gathered the box and the photograph. Placed them carefully in his jacket pocket. The weight felt wrong. Too light to matter. Too heavy to ignore. The bill had been paid before he asked. Not by him. Not by her. Someone else. He stepped outside. Seoul greeted him the way it always did. Neon, noise, motion. The city never stopped. Never questioned. It simply moved forward, indifferent to the weight people carried through its streets. Dae-hyun began walking. Not toward his car. Not toward home. Just walking. He passed buildings he owned but had never entered. Restaurants where his money flowed but his face never appeared. Streets he had shaped through contracts signed in silence. All of it felt suddenly fragile. He turned down an alley he had not walked in years. Narrow. Dark. The kind of place where deals were made before anyone thought to write them down. It still existed. He had assumed erasure was absolute. That is when you removed yourself from a place, and the place forgot you. But the alley remembered. The walls. The broken streetlight. The faint smell of fried food from a window that should have closed years ago. Nothing had changed. Except him. He kept walking. Past Jongmyo. Past Gwangwamun. Toward neighborhoods where his name carried no weight because no one there knew it. The box in his pocket felt heavier with each step. He thought about the figure in the photograph. Standing beside him. Watching. Invisible. How many others had been there? How many were still there now? He stopped at the edge of the Han River. The water moved slowly, black under the city lights. Across the river, towers rose. Glass, steel, ambition made visible. He had built pieces of that skyline. Or thought he had. Now, standing here, he wondered how much of it had been his choice, and how much had been permission dressed as opportunity. He pulled out the photograph. Studied the figure again. The posture. The distance. The deliberate invisibility. He did not recognize the face. But he recognized the method. Someone who knew how to stay close without being seen. Someone who understood that control required patience. Someone is still waiting. Dae-hyun put the photograph away. For the first time in years, he did not return home. He kept walking. Morning came slowly. Dae-hyun stood on a rooftop he did not own, watching the city wake. Commuters. Delivery trucks. The infrastructure of survival resumes without pause. He had not slept. Sleep required trust. And trust required certainty. He had neither. His phone had rung 4 times during the night. He did not answer. Messages accumulated. Meetings missed. Questions raised. He did not care. For the first time in years, the machinery of his life ran without him, and it continued. That should have been comforting. It was terrifying. He pulled out the box. Opened it. The ring sat inside, tarnished and bent. A promise made by hands that believed promises mattered. He closed the box. The woman's final warning echoed. If you want to know who spared you, don't look upward. Look beside you. Beside. Not above. Not below. Beside. Someone close enough to be invisible. Familiar enough to be trusted. Positioned where loyalty and surveillance became the same thing. He ran through names. Associates. Advisors. Men who had been with him since the beginning. Any of them could be watching. All of them could be watching. Or none. The uncertainty was the point. His phone rang again. This time, he answered. Where are you? Chairman Park's voice. Come. Measured. Walking, Dae-hyun said. A pause. The meeting went well? Park asked. It happened. Another pause. Longer this time. Good, Park said. That's all that mattered. The line went dead. Dae-hyun stared at the phone. That's all that mattered. Not the outcome. Not the connection. Just attendance. Just proof that he would show up when called. Just confirmation that he could still be reached. He understood now. The blind date was never about the woman. It was about whether power had made him untouchable, or simply alone. And loneliness, he realized, was the easiest vulnerability to exploit. He looked at the photograph one more time. The figure in the background. Watching. Waiting. He did not know who they were. But he knew what they wanted. They wanted to see which version of him would survive. The man who had buried the past. Or the boy who still remembered how to carve boxes. Dae-hyun pocketed the photograph. Across the city, someone was preparing their next move. And somewhere else, an 82-year-old woman who had waited longer than anyone should have to deliver what could not be killed. The past. Still breathing. Still waiting. Still owed. Dae-hyun turned away from the skyline. He did not know where he was going. But for the first time in years, he was choosing the direction himself. Even if that choice had been designed long before he made it. The city continued. The debt remained. And power, he understood now, was never the reward. It was the cost of forgetting what you owed.